Welcome back to our channel. Today, in quiet reverence, we remember the talented artists who left us too soon, some only just days ago. From the icons of Hollywood to rising stars, they each brought light to the world of entertainment, until they passed away suddenly. If you feel moved by their stories, we invite you to leave a like as a silent tribute in their memory. Thank you. Now, let us begin.
The Navy needs Maverick. The kid needs Maverick.
Val Kilmer, the unforgettable Iceman and Hollywood icon, has tragically passed away at the age of 65. Known for his magnetic presence in Top Gun, Batman Forever, and The Doors, Kilmer's career spanned decades and defined an era of American cinema. From Juilliard's youngest drama student to silver screen legend, Val Kilmer's range and intensity earned him both box office success and critical acclaim. He immortalized characters like Doc Holliday in Tombstone and Jim Morrison in The Doors, leaving a cultural impact that continues to resonate. At the height of his fame in the 90s, he commanded some of the highest salaries in Hollywood and built a legacy rooted in bold choices and undeniable charisma. Sadly, his daughter Mercedes confirmed he passed on April 1st, 2025, in Los Angeles. The cause: complications from pneumonia, compounded by chronic respiratory failure and a long battle with throat cancer, a fight he began in 2014 and faced with quiet strength and grace. Even after losing his voice, Kilmer found a way back. With the help of AI, he returned in Top Gun, Maverick, for a deeply moving final performance. He told his story in Val, a documentary voiced by his son Jack, offering a raw, heartfelt window into his life, loss, and redemption. If his story or quiet resilience meant something to you, don't forget to press subscribe as a way to help preserve the legacy he leaves behind. Richard Chamberlain, the beloved star of Dr. Kildare and the Thorn, has sadly passed away at the age of 90. A screen and stage legend, Chamberlain died peacefully on March 29, 2025, at his home in Waimanalo, Hawaii, due to complications from a stroke. Chamberlain rose to fame in the 1960s as the dashing Dr. Kildare, captivating audiences and becoming a cultural phenomenon. He went on to define an entire era of television through powerful performances in epic miniseries like Shogun, The Thorn, and The Bourne Identity. His range extended to film, Shakespearean stage roles in England and Broadway, earning him Golden Globes and a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. His death was confirmed by a family friend on behalf of his retired publicist, and later by his longtime partner, Martin Rabbit, who honored him as an amazing and loving soul. Behind the acclaim was a life of quiet resilience. Chamberlain lived much of his career in silence about his sexuality, coming out publicly in 2003. He faced the pressures of fame with dignity and courage, choosing authenticity later in life and inspiring others to do the same. A gifted actor, a private soul, and a cultural icon, Richard Chamberlain leaves behind a legacy of elegance, grace, and emotional depth. If his journey touched your heart, please consider subscribing to help preserve the memory of a truly remarkable life. David Lynch, the visionary filmmaker behind Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks, has tragically passed away at the age of 78. His death was confirmed by family on January 16th, just 4 days before what would have been his 79th birthday. Across a career spanning nearly 5 decades, Lynch redefined modern storytelling. From the haunting surrealism of Eraserhead to the quiet tenderness of The Elephant Man and the cultural phenomenon of Twin Peaks, his work invited audiences into worlds where dreams and reality blurred. He earned 3 Oscar nominations for Best Director, received the Golden Lion for Lifetime Achievement, and was honored with France's Legion of Honor for his artistic contributions. Lynch's path was never conventional. After the commercial failure of Dune, he returned with Blue Velvet, a bold comeback that re-established his place in cinema history. He explored personal projects, practiced transcendental meditation, and even sat beside a live cow on a Los Angeles street, campaigning, with heart and humor, for Laura Dern's Oscar recognition. He is survived by 4 children and leaves behind a fortune estimated at $50 million, but far greater is the cultural impact of his artistry. As Laura Dern wrote, "I will love and miss you every day for the rest of my life." Michelle Trachtenberg, the beloved star of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Gossip Girl, has tragically passed away at the age of 39. The actress was found unresponsive in a New York City apartment on February 26th. This week, the New York City medical examiner confirmed the cause of death as complications from diabetes, ruling it a natural passing. Michelle's career began early, lighting up screens on The Adventures of Pete and Pete and All My Children. But it was her unforgettable performances as Dawn Summers on Buffy and the deliciously sharp Georgina Sparks on Gossip Girl that cemented her as a defining face of 2 television generations. In the years leading up to her death, Michelle had withdrawn from the public eye. Sources close to her revealed she had undergone a liver transplant and struggled with significant health issues, both physical and emotional. Despite this, she remained fiercely outspoken, defending her image and challenging cruel speculation with bravery and wit. Tributes poured in from friends and co-stars. Sarah Michelle Gellar, Blake Lively, and Rosie O'Donnell shared heartfelt memories, honoring a talent gone too soon. Michelle left behind a reported net worth of $6 million and a legacy etched in teen television history. If her story touched you, consider subscribing, as a quiet gesture to remember a young life that gave so much and left us far too soon. George Wendt, the iconic Norm Peterson from Cheers, has peacefully passed away at the age of 76. His family confirmed he died in his sleep at home, a moment marked not by drama, but by the quiet dignity of a veteran mentor at rest. Wendt's career remains one of television's most enduring legacies. As Norm, he appeared in all 275 episodes across 11 seasons, earning 6 consecutive Emmy nominations. That warm greeting, "Afternoon, everybody," became a shared cultural moment, one that spanned generations and helped define the sitcom era. His journey began on the stages of Chicago's Second City Improv troupe in the 1970s. After Cheers, he kept reinventing himself, with supporting roles in Frasier, The Simpsons, and even Broadway triumphs in Hairspray and Art. His comedic presence was steady and sincere, with a voice that resonated deeply with audiences. Behind the laughter was humility and resilience. Wendt once joked about his barstool routine. "It tasted awful, but I learned. Only drink when the camera's on. That's acting." That lighthearted confession reflected a man grounded in his craft, quietly mastering redemption through humor. News of his passing drew heartfelt tributes. Co-star Ted Danson, visibly moved, said, "I love you, Georgie." From family to fans, the grief is gentle but profound, a testament to the warmth he brought into homes every evening. He leaves behind his wife Bernadette, children, grandchildren, and a legacy of genuine laughter. If his story ever warmed your heart, please consider subscribing to honor his memory and keep the legacy alive. Leslie Charleson, the iconic star of General Hospital, beloved for nearly 5 decades as Monica Quartermain, has passed away at the age of 79. The heartbreaking news was confirmed on January 12, 2025, by executive producer Frank Valentini in a tribute posted to the show's official Instagram. Although the cause of death was not disclosed, Charleson had reportedly been battling illness in recent years. She died peacefully, leaving behind a profound legacy that touched generations of daytime television audiences. From 1977 to 2023, Leslie Charleson embodied the role of Monica, the heart and soul of the Quartermaine family. Through storylines filled with heartbreak, resilience, and redemption, she earned 4 Daytime Emmy nominations and became the longest-serving cast member in General Hospital history. Her quiet strength and enduring presence helped define the golden age of American soap operas. Despite declining health and being shifted to recurring status in 2010, Charleson continued to appear on the show for over a decade afterward, a testament to her unwavering dedication. She brought humanity to every scene, even as her own journey was marked by private battles. Her passing has left a void in the hearts of colleagues and fans alike. Frank Valentini remembered her as a beloved matriarch, with quick wit and incredible presence. Leslie's legacy lives on not only through her work, but through the emotional connection she forged with millions. If her grace and devotion meant something to you, don't forget to subscribe, as one small way to help keep her memory alive. Loretta Swit, the beloved actress behind Major Margaret Hot Lips, Houlihan, has sadly passed away at the age of 87. Her death was confirmed by longtime publicist Harlan Bowl, with reports indicating natural causes at her home in New York City. As the heart of MASH, Swit brought both strength and soul to a role that broke stereotypes and redefined women in television drama. Across 11 powerful seasons, she appeared in nearly every episode, earning 10 Emmy nominations and winning twice, a rare and enduring legacy. Yet beyond the accolades, her portrayal of Margaret transformed from caricature to deeply human, a change Swit herself fought for. Her performance was not merely acted, it was created, molded, and dignified through her persistence. Alan Alda, her co-star, remembered, "She made the most of her time here." Others described her as talented, compassionate, and courageous. Off-screen, Swit lived her truth with the same integrity, speaking candidly about love, independence, and the challenges of being a woman in Hollywood. At the time of her passing, she left behind a net worth of $4 million and a legacy of empowerment that transcends generations. If Loretta's strength and spirit touched your life, consider subscribing to honor a woman who turned a uniformed nurse into a cultural icon. Angie Stone, the Grammy-nominated R&B legend known for her timeless voice and soulful resilience, has tragically passed away at the age of 63. The heartbreaking news was confirmed by her longtime publicist, Yvonne Forbes, who revealed that Stone died Saturday morning in a vehicle collision while traveling from a performance in Mobile, Alabama to Atlanta, Georgia. She had just graced the stage the night before, still giving, still glowing, still full of song. Angie Stone's remarkable career spanned nearly 5 decades. She first broke ground with the pioneering female rap group The Sequence in the late 70s, before carving her own path in neo-soul and R&B with unforgettable albums like Black Diamond and Mahogany Soul. Her anthems, from Wish I Didn't Miss You to More Than a Woman, earned her 3 Grammy nominations and solidified her place in music history. More than a voice, Angie was a survivor. She once described herself as a rubber band. "You can stretch me, but I won't pop." Her creative spirit never waned, and just weeks ago she shared, "I have so much more to give." She is survived by her son, Michael D'Angelo Archer II, also known as Suavo Twain, continuing her musical legacy. As tributes pour in, we remember a woman who turned struggle into song and heartbreak into healing. Angie Stone's light endures in every beat, every lyric, every soul she ever touched. Nicky Katt, the unforgettable character actor behind Dazed and Confused and Boston Public, has tragically passed away at the age of 54. Known for his raw, magnetic presence on screen, Katt brought edge and humanity to every role he touched, leaving behind a legacy that continues to resonate with generations of film lovers. Over nearly 4 decades, he built a remarkable career across film and television, from A Time to Kill to The Limey, Behind the Candelabra, and his fan-favorite role as teacher Harry Sennett in Boston Public. Katt embodied complex, often troubled characters with intensity and surprising vulnerability. He worked with acclaimed directors like Richard Linklater, Robert Rodriguez, and Steven Soderbergh, a testament to his enduring respect in the industry. Sadly, Katt's passing was confirmed by his attorney and later by his sister. He died quietly at his home in Burbank, California. Though the full weight of his personal struggles remained hidden from public view, those close to him spoke of his quiet strength and unwavering dedication to his craft. Katt had stepped away from acting after 2018, choosing a life out of the spotlight. Yet the depth he brought to even the smallest roles ensured he would never be forgotten. As filmmaker Robert Rodriguez wrote, "His magic will live forever in his favorite medium. May his legacy continue to inspire."
The first time that I experienced a sense of power.
What does it mean to keep reinventing yourself, not for applause, but for survival? For Will Smith, it was never just about fame. It was about staying whole in a world that kept asking for pieces. To those of you watching who've weathered decades of change, carried families through storms, and learned that true strength often comes after the spotlight fades, this story is for you. This is not a tale of celebrity. This is the journey of a man, building his legacy not on red carpets, but on the quiet ground of discipline, dignity, and the courage to begin again. It starts in West Philadelphia, where stoops tell stories and gospel music drifts through cracked windows like morning prayer. Willard Carroll Smith Jr. was born in 1968 into a home where success wasn't celebrated, it was expected. His mother, Caroline Bright, a school board administrator, believed in the power of education to elevate a soul. His father, Willard Sr., a former U.S. Air Force sergeant turned refrigeration engineer, preached integrity through action. "Excuses are the enemy of greatness," his father would say, handing young Will a shovel in winter to rebuild a crumbling brick wall by hand. That wall became more than a chore. It became a metaphor for effort, for endurance, for a man who would one day need to rebuild himself from the inside out. Saturday mornings were a ritual of rhythm and rigor. Miles Davis on the record player, a chore list on the kitchen table, report cards pinned beside the thermostat like sacred texts. And in the spaces between expectations, Will found performance, standing in the living room, mimicking Richard Pryor, scribbling rhymes into spiral notebooks, not to impress, but to feel understood. In school, they called him Prince, not for wealth, but for presence. Impeccable sneakers, quick wit, a smile that disarmed conflict before fists could rise. He didn't fight his way out of trouble, he talked his way through it. At age 12, Will was already shaping verses and rhythms at neighborhood parties. One night in 1985, in the humid crush of a West Philly basement, he met DJ Jazzy Jeff. Jeff had the turntables. Will had the words. What began as a local duo turned into national momentum. Within 2 years, they had a record deal. By 1989, they won the first ever Grammy for Best Rap Performance with Parents Just Don't Understand. Their music had cultural impact. It brought rap into suburban kitchens without threat or profanity. They were fresh, playful, inviting, and for a moment, unstoppable. But fame arrived without a safety net. Mismanaged finances, unpaid taxes, frozen accounts, cars repossessed. Will had tasted the front of the stage, But now he was learning about the cost behind the curtain. It wasn't failure that hurt most. It was the humiliation of almost making it. Then, almost losing it all. And then, as it so often does in stories of destiny, the phone rang. It was Quincy Jones. No script, no time, just instinct. Will walked into a chaotic audition, unrehearsed, unfiltered, and emerged with the lead role in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Premiering in 1990, the show became more than entertainment. It became ritual. Families across America welcomed him into their living rooms, week after week, not just as a character, but as kin. But Will wasn't content to rest. While others coasted between seasons, he trained. He studied storytelling like a craft. He built script clubs with veteran mentors. He tracked global trends and box office arcs like a strategist. He wasn't acting anymore. He was architecting a career. In 1993, he stunned critics with 6 Degrees of Separation, a dramatic turn that stripped away the jokes and revealed gravity. Then came Bad Boys, then Independence Day, then Men in Black. Year after year, Will Smith stood at the center of cultural spectacle. He was now more than an actor. He was a symbol of black excellence, of bankable magnetism, of cultural impact wrapped in humor, humility, and heat. The legacy seemed inevitable, but something unspoken was growing beneath the surface. The smile became harder to wear, the expectation heavier, the applause less comforting. When does performance end and person begin? Will once said, "If I'm not who they love, will they still love me?" That question, quietly asked, would one day demand an answer far louder than he imagined. And so, the story moves toward the tension behind the triumph, the cracks behind the crown, the moment when the Fresh Prince would face something no script could prepare him for, the unraveling of the image he worked so hard to perfect. Join us in part 2 as the lights dim and we step into the silence that changed everything. Because sometimes the most unforgettable legacies are not built in victory, but in the battle to come back. There comes a point in every life, quiet, often private, when applause can no longer drown out the questions echoing inside. For Will Smith, that moment didn't arrive with a headline. It arrived in the stillness after the noise, in the solitude that follows the fall. He had reached a height few ever touch. 4 consecutive summers of box office dominance, global fame, an Oscar in reach. And yet, beneath the tailored suits and dazzling smiles, something fragile was splintering. A weight he had carried since childhood, of being dependable, agreeable, invincible, was becoming too heavy to bear. When he stepped onto that Oscar stage in March 2022 and struck Chris Rock, it wasn't just a reaction, it was a rupture, a lifetime of compressed emotion, grief, anger, shame, released in one irreversible gesture. And in that moment, the world's most bankable star became a man at war with his own image. The fallout was swift. A 10-year ban from the Academy, canceled projects, fractured trust, but far more devastating than public judgment was the private reckoning. As the world watched, Will Smith vanished, not into luxury, but into silence, into deep, deliberate withdrawal. In that space, he began what he would later call his humility curriculum, a leather-bound journal filled not with roles, but raw reflections. I've had to sit with parts of myself I had spent decades trying to outperform, he wrote. Fear, rage, the deep fear that maybe I was never enough without the work, the spotlight, the mask. But pain was not new to him. In 2013, James Avery, the beloved Uncle Phil from The Fresh Prince, passed away. Will wept like a son. "He filled the gap my father left behind," he once said, voice breaking. Then, in 2016, came the passing of his real father, Willard Sr., the man who had once made him rebuild a brick wall, not for the wall, but for the lesson. That loss cracked something open. His marriage to Jada Pinkett endured public strain. Their candid conversations about separation, unconventional love, and past betrayal invited ridicule. But behind closed doors, there was also resilience, a quiet decision to keep choosing one another, despite the noise. And when After Earth collapsed at the box office, Will didn't just lose a hit. He faced accusations of nepotism, fatherhood on trial. His ability to pick surefire roles, once revered, was now questioned. The cultural impact he had built over decades felt suddenly precarious. Still, he didn't quit. Instead, he turned inward. He sought stillness, not for escape, but for redemption. In 2022, he traveled to India, where he practiced yoga and silent meditation. He confronted his sleep apnea. He spoke for the first time of having contemplated ending his life in his 20s. He began journaling daily, practicing transcendental meditation twice a day under the guidance of Bob Roth. He participated in guided psychedelic journeys in Peru, facing grief he had buried under decades of performance. And slowly, piece by piece, he began to rebuild, not as a superstar, but as a man. Physically, he re-entered discipline, hit sessions with his son Jaden, competitive planking with Willow, sunrise kettlebell flows, nutrient-mapped meals by Chef Lawrence Duran. His Apple Watch pinged hourly reminders to stretch, a quiet symbol of how, even in recovery, Will built structure to protect the flame. He filmed Best Shape of My Life, a YouTube original meant to track weight loss, but it became something else. Cameras captured tears, doubts, breakthroughs. "I'm not trying to be perfect anymore," he admitted on screen. "I'm trying to be honest." In March 2025, he released his most vulnerable work yet, based on a true story. A studio album not designed for charts, but for healing. Its opening track, Int, Barbershop, Day, didn't hide from the Oscar incident. It explored it, line by line, as a man would revisit a scar, not with shame, but with understanding. Critics were divided. But for Will, this was not about acclaim. It was about ownership. "This album isn't about forgiveness from the world," he said softly in a radio interview. "It's about learning how to forgive myself." And perhaps that is the greatest sobriety journey of all, not from substances, but from the illusion of perfection, from the applause that numbs, from the spotlight that blinds. Will Smith is no longer chasing hits. He's chasing wholeness, a different kind of legacy. And like any man who has survived the collapse of his former self, he walks now with quieter steps, but deeper eyes, eyes that see pain not as punishment, but as preparation. As we enter the final act of this tribute, we move not toward triumph, but toward truth, toward the quiet impact of a man who has learned that the greatest comeback begins not with cameras, but with courage. Stay with us. One final breath, and we'll meet the man Will Smith has become. Today, Will Smith is no longer racing to the next franchise. He walks slower, speaks softer, smiles deeper. Not because he's become smaller, but because he's become clearer. The comeback was never about proving the world wrong. It was about learning how to live right. He now lives between Los Angeles and quiet creative retreats, sharing his time with family, his production company Overbrook Entertainment, and a select circle of collaborators who value stillness as much as success. His days begin with gratitude walks at sunrise, a journal under one arm, and his Apple Watch reminding him not to stretch his career, but his spine. In interviews, he radiates something different. Not charisma, not calculation, but centeredness. When asked what he hopes to leave behind, he pauses. "I used to think legacy was how many movies you made, how many people screamed your name. Now, I think it's what your grandkids learn from your mistakes." Will's legacy is no longer just cinematic. It's personal, cultural, spiritual. He mentors rising actors behind the scenes, teaches storytelling workshops to at-risk youth, and funds wellness centers in underserved communities. His redemption has become collective, turning personal failure into shared freedom. He remains close with Jada, even after years of public misunderstanding. Their bond is no longer defined by tabloid labels, but by deliberate care. Family dinners, quiet vacations, parenting as presence, not just performance. "We love differently now," he told a podcast. "Not for show, for survival." His children, Jaden and Willow, continue to chart their own paths, artistically fearless and emotionally articulate, a reflection of both his flaws and his growth. "They teach me more than I ever taught them," he admits. In summer 2025, Will returned to the big screen with Bad Boys, Ride or Die, a fitting metaphor not just for the film, but for a life that refused to fold. The movie grossed over $400 million worldwide, a reminder that his cultural impact endures, not because of polish, but because of truth. He's also preparing for an international tour tied to Based on a True Story, not in stadiums, but in smaller venues where music and conversation blur, spaces where vulnerability can breathe. This too is part of his sobriety journey, turning the stage into a sanctuary. And perhaps the most symbolic moment of all came not on stage or screen, but in a still image. Will, seated quietly at a Dubai wellness center, CPAP mask fitted, breath steady, eyes closed. A man once chased by perfection, finally at peace with his own breath. There's a line he keeps returning to. He said it in interviews, in songs, and recently, in the final pages of his memoir, "Excuses are the enemy of greatness." It began as a lesson from his father. It became the scaffolding of his career. But now, it sounds less like a slogan and more like a prayer. For our viewers who've lived long enough to know that healing takes time and courage and humility, Will Smith's story is not just inspiring, it's familiar, it's a mirror, a reminder that even our heroes are human, and that sometimes the bravest thing they do is stand back up and try again. So if you've ever felt like a chapter closed too soon, if you've ever believed your best days were behind you, let this be your sign. Redemption is real. Comebacks are possible. And legacy is never final. It is always unfolding. Thank you for walking this journey with us. If Will Smith's story moved you, we invite you to subscribe, to share, and to stay connected. Because every life, like every great performance, deserves to be seen in its full, unfinished beauty. We'll see you in the next story.